Hi everyone, Sarah and I are going to be discussing the ladder to successful DEI leadership. By the way, this ladder is never ending because there's always room for improvement in terms of inclusivity. Throughout the past several weeks, we have covered a lot of ground in discussing the depths of DEI, aka diversity, equity, and inclusion, and how it can be applied to the workplace. Incorporating DEI and acknowledging issues pertaining to DEI can be easier said than done. However, in an increasingly diversifying society, it is important that corporations are keeping up with the times. Sarah and I have come up with 3 DEI concepts that we believe are crucial to providing a safe space in your workplace. Let's begin. First, we want to address affinity bias. Affinity bias is a bias embedded in the subconscious that causes people to gravitate toward individuals that share similar qualities and characteristics to them. For example, if I am someone responsible for hiring new employees, I'm more likely, by affinity bias, to consider someone who has the same/similar educational background as me than someone who has different educational background qualities. Why is affinity bias important, especially to our individual tendencies, which then reflect on our organizational dynamics as a whole? Affinity bias is very common in individuals. It causes a lack of inclusion not only in individual tendencies, so this level of sameness that we're talking about, but it also causes organizational dynamics as a whole to become very non-inclusive. When we are constantly blinded by this blanket of sameness, it is really unlikely that unless we take steps to go against affinity bias, we are not going to diversify. So how can we diversify? How can we apply the term to our organization/leadership? Well, it starts with actively seeking diversity. The more our minds are trained to be more comfortable with difference and to look for these differences, the less affinity bias has a hold over us. Developing inclusive hiring processes is a very crucial step to kind of getting rid of this affinity bias that likely appears in a workplace that hasn't worked to be diversified yet. And then finally, learning more about your differences amidst your organization. When you're constantly surrounding yourself by people's differences and acknowledging differences, it kind of coincides with step 1. It coincides with seeking diversity. It leads you to kind of immerse your mind in difference so that you're more comfortable and more accepting, which then leads to inclusive behaviors and promoting diversity as a whole. Bias is prominent in many workplaces, one of which being the sports realm. Men have always dominated the sports industry, and although there have been more efforts to hire more women are still not being given the same opportunity as men. One of the reasons this can be accredited to is affinity bias, as men who are responsible for hiring newer employees and appointing opportunities see their male counterparts being more fit as they share similar qualities, whereas women are left out in this scenario. So in 1995, Phyllis and Randy Miller created a study pertaining to affinity bias in sports rooms. 59% of female respondents answered that they do not feel that there is equal opportunity in the workplace for female sports journalists, regardless of being hired. And 56% believe that there is unequal opportunity for promotions within the sports department. So these women were expressing their disdain for their opportunities, which can be accredited to affinity bias. An important quote by one of the respondents: "Women are mostly window dressing, there to make the numbers look good." This, according to a lot of research, is a very universal feeling amongst women in the sports room. Quota hiring is another result of affinity bias. Women are being hired for the statistic, but they're not being provided with the same opportunities.
Hi, so the first thing that I'm going to be talking about is mission-minded. Mission-minded leaders are people who are focused on the culture, the values, and the mission of a company, where mercenaries are more focused on profit. For example, a mission-minded company, if they want to increase diversity in their company, they may change their hiring process or launch diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. As times are changing, more companies are becoming more mission-minded, but there is still room for growth. If we look at the sports industry, we can see that there is still a huge gender gap in the sports newsrooms. An ESPN article from 2018 by Richard Lapchick states that sports media leaders remain largely white and male. Lapchick expresses the commitment to diversity and inclusion of the 2011 former president of ESPN, John Skipper. Skipper helped encourage diversity and inclusion within ESPN. Lapchick expresses that he believed that Skipper was a true advocate for helping women and people of color in the media. ESPN's mission statement is to serve sports fans anytime, anywhere, and their values include diversity, creativity, and teamwork. Skipper won the 2016 Women Recognized in Sports Media Champion Award. He was given this award because he supported and mentored women in the industry. Being mission-minded and focused on the values of a culture is a good way to be more focused on the people versus solely driven by profitability. It helps build more diverse and inclusive workplaces, spread awareness of different cultures, and increase the willingness to learn about different cultures. The second thing that I'll be talking about is pluralism. Deborah J. Dean, in her writing, Including Everyone with Respectful Pluralism, states that pluralism is tolerant at minimum, embrace and encourage at best, the uniqueness of each and every human being so long as their difference is not threatening to society as a whole, and so long as their difference is not against some form of moral code, on page 125. In simpler terms, it involves moving beyond the acknowledgement of differences to understanding, action, and respect to build a better world. It is important in a workplace to understand the cultures and identities that surround you to effectively work together as a team and create a workplace that is willing to learn and encourage people from different cultures. For example, ESPN created ESPNW, which celebrates women in the sports industry. This has increased the coverage of women athletes. It offers a space to show support for women athletes and a space for others to learn about different cultures and identities within sports industry. The importance of pluralism is to spread awareness and understanding of different cultures. It can help leaders learn how to effectively work in diverse teams and understand their diverse audiences. For women working in the newsroom, pluralism can help leaders get a better understanding of different perspectives, identities, and cultures. This will help them embrace differences. According to Lapchick's article, Reverend Jesse Jackson states that many people do not fully appreciate the value of having ethically diverse journalists that can help them tell the story from a culturally sensitive perspective and also capture the interests of a wider sports audience. We believe that leaders of diverse teams in sports media should be aware of their affinity bias to help diversify their team, be mission-minded, and adopt pluralism by encouraging awareness and willingness to learn about different cultures by offering trainings or spaces for teams to talk together and feel comfortable to introduce new ideas. Thank you.